Hi, it's Sindy, your insider, welcoming you into another episode of the Insider's Career Club. Our podcast helps job seekers like you avoid making critical mistakes in their job search. We also help workers stay in the know with timely career news. As the in-house talent acquisition person, I qualified and interviewed candidates. I also worked with managers to help them fill their positions. In my career of over 25 plus years, I witnessed countless candidates make costly mistakes on their resumes and in their interviews. But that doesn't have to be you. Understand what managers are looking for when they hire. Listen to the podcast regularly. You'll be able to learn a lot. Remember too, there's support for your job search on the website, and we have career services to help you with your resumes, and we can do a mock interview to help you land that great position. Hey insiders, it's June. Are you someone that's been in the workforce for a long time? Do you remember what you did in the old days of looking for your first job? Well, I remember mine. I walked up and down streets with my size 7s pounding the pavement, in high heels no less, filling out applications in person to several different employers. And at the end of the day, I caught the bus, sweaty and exhausted. Now, the good news for me is that I landed a job. The bad news is those days don't exist anymore, and I'm really kind of glad they don't. And the reason is it's much more efficient to apply online to different companies. You're able to get more done in a shorter amount of time with much less physical effort. Now, there may still be a few industries that accept walk-in applications, but most businesses have changed. Most companies no longer encourage that you come in and apply face-to-face. They want you to apply online, and it's for good reason. First of all, it's protection for you. It lessens the possibility of your application getting lost in transfer, which means the receptionist, if there was one, would hand it off to someone in HR, maybe a coordinator. The coordinator hands it off to maybe the recruiting manager. The recruiting manager hands it off, and so on and so forth. It can get lost in transfer. It's neater because you use a computer to input the information. And it also allows businesses to collect vital information that they need to report into the government. So, no matter who you are, if you're in a job search, you're going to be interacting with a recruiter. Now, did you know that there are different types of recruiters? Listen to this podcast and you'll know the different types of recruiters, as well as how best to work with them. There are agency recruiters, corporate recruiters, recruiting consultants, and search firm recruiters. And yes, they all recruit, but there are big differences between the job titles and the duties. First off, let's go with the agency recruiter. This is a recruiter who works outside of the company for which they are trying to find candidates for. The agencies the recruiters work for can be either large or small. And you already know some of the larger agencies like Kelly, Apple One, Manpower, Randstad, Robert Half. But there are many great local, smaller agencies as well. And then there are even smaller ones that are sole proprietorships like Sindy Thomas Recruiting. Now, the agency, the business itself, dictates the type of positions that they're going to work on, as well as, the status of those roles. Are they full-time? Are they temporary? Is it contract consultants? They also specialize in specific industries. And what this does for them is it allows them to pinpoint their work focus and efforts and gives them better success in building a database of resources, which for them is candidate resumes. It also helps them in developing client companies to work with because they're specialized, and helps them build a better reputation among the professionals in that industry. Now, there's an upside to working with an agency recruiter because at any given time, they may have several similar positions with different clients that they're working on. This is great for them, and it's great for you. And what it means to you is they can get you broader exposure for your resume. Now, the agency recruiter usually works directly with the in-house company corporate recruiter who engaged them to work on this role. Sometimes that agency recruiter has direct access to the hiring manager. And if this is the case, they may have already built a long-lasting relationship with that particular client and possibly have some sway with the hiring manager. Or it's also possible that the company that they are recruiting for is so small because they don't have a TA department that the hiring manager is responsible for his own recruiting. Either way, for you as a candidate, it's a plus. However, there's a downside to working with an agency too. The positions that they work on have probably been shopped around to several other agencies. And what this means for you is the other agencies are working on those roles and submitting candidates to that position. So here's an insider's tip for you. It's on you as a candidate job seeker to be careful who you send your resume to. Do your best to find out who the client is. Now, I know agencies don't like to tell you, but if you're very real with them and tell them where you've applied, I think it's a good start to finding out where they might be submitting you to. And if you work with more than one agency, it's important for you to know that. And it's also important for you to tell them where you've applied. In addition, it's important to know, too, that agencies can only work on a position if they have a contract agreement in place. And that's with the company that's hiring for the role. They can't work on positions when they have no contract in place with the company. Now let's go on to corporate recruiters. The in-house corporate recruiters, they are FTEs, full-time employees, and they work directly for the company for the positions that they're working on. And as such, they have the inside scoop on everything, really. I worked in corporate recruiting for many years, so I'm very familiar with what a corporate recruiter does. They work directly with hiring managers, and they know what these managers want in their candidates. They are responsible for sourcing and screening and qualifying candidates. They manage the candidate search, they review resumes, they submit candidates who are a good match for review to the hiring manager. They track the candidate's process, keeping both the manager and the candidates updated. They're in charge of organizing and coordinating the overall interview process, and they serve as a support person to the hiring manager. Corporate recruiters manage agency recruiters that they've contracted to work on a role. In addition, these corporate recruiters don't just have one position that they're working on at a time. They have multiple positions and multiple managers that they are working with at the same time to help those managers get their positions filled as well. Now, when the interview process is completed, the corporate recruiter makes sure the back-end processes like drug tests, reference checks, background checks, etc., are done. They work with the hiring manager on preparing offers. They also extend those offers in most cases. This is what a corporate recruiter does. Now, what they don't do or cannot do is shop your resume around or look for positions for you like an agency recruiter might do. Now, in discussing recruiting consultants, they act as corporate recruiters and only work for one employer at a time as well. And they do everything the corporate recruiter does, but they're working on a contractual basis. Let's move on and look at a search firm recruiter. Now, the recruiters with the search firm are retained, which means that they're paid for working on a role, whether they fill it or not. And usually, in most cases, they work on higher level positions in a company like C-suite down to the VP. In the companies that I worked for as a director of TA, we would only engage search firms on positions at a particular level. Most of the time, it was senior director and above. The retained search recruiters work very closely with talent acquisition and the hiring manager for the positions that they work on. They also work very closely with their candidates. They coach them, they counsel them, they vet them because they want to make sure that they're sending the very best to their clients. Now, there you have it, the breakdown of the different recruiters. Now let's chat a little bit about how best to work with a recruiter. Now, basically, all recruiters have the same expectations from candidates. First off is responsiveness. Recruiters want you to respond back to their whatever form of communication, email, text, or call, in a timely manner. We want to qualify you and get you in play as quickly as we can. In addition, whether you're asked or not, let your recruiter know what's the best way to contact you and the best times. Secondly, it is best if you are honest with us. We'll do our best to keep you in the loop for the position that you're interested in. However, we really need you to be honest with us as well. Let us know if you're interviewing for other roles and where you are in the process. This will allow us to alert managers to the possibility of losing you as a candidate. Now, in some cases, but not all, the hiring manager may get you scheduled for a call or interview sooner if they have that information. Now, here's an insider's tip coming at you. Be sure to be truthful on your application and your resume. The application is a legal document. Make sure that's accurate. Now, moving on. Continue to give your recruiter status updates. If you're considering another offer, we need to know that, so share it with us. Trust me, we hate losing our good candidates to the competition, and we'll do our best to encourage hiring managers to speed things up if they're interested in you. But here's another insider's tip. I want to give you a word of caution here. Only use this tactic if you are truly considering another offer, because it can backfire on you. Some managers want their position to be your first choice. And if you are considering another offer, they consider that is not the case, and it makes them look at you differently. Third, be coachable. Not all recruiters work the same way. But as for me, I like to tell my candidates as much as I can about the company, the hiring manager, the job, and the team. In this manner, they can get a good idea about whether or not the opportunity is going to be possibly a right fit for them. If your recruiter gives you some advice, listen. They're trying to help you. Last point I want to make is to be reliable. If you tell the recruiter that you're working with that you will get your resume redone on a certain date and time, please do it. If you can't do it, all you have to do is let them know that you need a little bit more time. Keep in mind, too, that being unreliable or breaking your word comes across to recruiters on the inside as you being flaky. In general, if you are upfront and honest, things should just go smoothly for you. Well, that's it, insiders. That's your primer on recruiters. This information will help you better understand the type of recruiter that you're working with and help you in your job search. So glad you joined us today. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like us because your ratings matter. We'll be bringing you new podcasts every 2 weeks on the first and third Wednesdays. My goal is to help you, my valued listeners, in your job search and continue to help you right on through your work life. To make that happen, though, your support is needed. By listening regularly, we can keep this going. But you can also help by sharing the podcast with your network of friends, family, and coworkers. Ask them to listen. We're on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and so many more. Not so podcast savvy? Tell them they can go to listen on our website at www.insiderscareerclub.com. I appreciate your support. Stay safe and take care.